Hello, everybody in the room and online. I am Sarah Davis, here today to talk about our new research impact reports and steps you can take to increase your impact and reach of your publications. I am the lead of the library's bibliometrics team, and I'm here with my today non-speaking teammates, Hope Shen and Jamie Roberts. We also have Jan Thomas at the College Park Library. So if you ever need to reach out to an individual, that's who you want to talk to. So on to our reports. We have these new reports we're offering. They are single-page reports that the library is producing to showcase the quality of individual researchers' publications. We're using data from researcher profiles, insights, and Web of Science to highlight 8 key bibliometric indicators to present a well-rounded picture of your published research. And we're hoping that these prove useful for monitoring your own citation impact, or even as part of a mid-year or annual review. So what's in these reports? First and foremost, obviously, we have the researcher's name, as well as their ORCID or researcher ID, or both, if they have both, which we like. Then we have the most basic of indicators, which is the total number of publications the researcher has published. Most of the metrics in this report are based entirely on peer-reviewed journal articles, because that's what's indexed in Web of Science, and that's what we need to use. But here we can list other types of publications like conference proceedings, letters, editorial materials, tech memos, and other white papers, provided that they are listed in your researcher profile or included in the NOAA institutional repository. We then have the H-index, which is the number of articles a researcher has published that have received a certain number of citations. The researcher here has published 89 articles, and of those, 36 have received 36 or more citations. This isn't our favorite metric because it definitely favors older, more established researchers, but it is valuable information, and it's pretty standard in evaluations and reviews. It also, in the context of everything else, really helps present that picture. Next to that is the total number of times the researcher's articles have been cited. This author's 89 articles have been cited 3,549 times, which is quite a bit. We then have a metric that's more than just a number, and it's the research areas the researcher has published in. So you can sort of see the breadth of their work. These categories are defined by Web of Science based on the journal the articles were published in. And you can see that this researcher has published in 10 areas spanning the environmental sciences. So it shows how diverse your work is. Below that, we have some more citation metrics, starting with the average number of citations each of the researcher's articles have received. In this case, it's 39. I'd like to note that that's a little bit higher than the H-index of 36. So it's together starts to present more of a picture of that work. Then we have the researcher's citation performance, or the percentage of articles that rank in the top 10% of articles published in the same year in the same field. 19% of this researcher's articles performed better than 90% of articles published in the same year and fields. And this is evaluated, it's a number based on every article. So each one is tallied and calculated. This is like having a very well-performing kid in school on standardized tests. And the row finishes off with a percentage of all the researchers' articles which have received any citations. 89% is a pretty good number and fairly standard for environmental science publications. Finally, at the bottom, we have the number of highly cited articles that the researcher has published, and we list those articles. Highly cited articles are papers that perform in the top 1% based on the number of citations received when compared with other papers published in the same field in the same year. If you do a little head math, 2 highly cited articles is more than 1% of this author's publication. So again, very well-performing papers. On the back, we again have the researcher's name and profile IDs, as well as a brief bio. This particular bio is very, very brief, but we can certainly add more if anyone wanted it. Any degrees, any additional affiliations with universities or programs. The rest of the backside is an explanation of the metrics that we used on the front and the sources that we used to sort of explain what those numbers look like. Just looking at numbers in pretty colors might not be useful if you don't know what they mean. We also have some contact information for the bibliometrics team if you have more questions or want to ask for an updated report. And we have a note about the date the report was created, which is a very small but very important detail because these numbers do change constantly. So who are these reports for? They're for any NOAA researcher who wants one and has an ORCID ID or has claimed their researcher ID in Web of Science and has an updated listing of publications. We also need at least 10 peer-reviewed articles published at least 2 years ago. That 2-year date, we do include articles that are newer than that, but we need to give articles some time to build enough citations to give us valuable information. Unfortunately, these aren't really appropriate for early career researchers. If you don't have enough publications, it's not going to give us valuable information. It's not much of a showcase. But there are some steps you can take early in your career, as well as later, to help improve the impact and reach of your scholarly publications. Quick note, if you'd like to request a report or you'd like more information about these, you can email us at the library.bibliometrics@noaa.gov email address, and one of our team will get back to you. So, some simple steps you can take to increase your impact. The first being to make yourself visible. This is something you can do before you ever publish. I've never published, and I have both an ORCID and a researcher ID. You can register for an ORCID and include all sorts of publications that wouldn't necessarily be indexed in Web of Science or any other indexing service. So your conference proceedings, posters you've presented, meeting notes, newsletters, white papers, tech memos, everything can go there, as well as full details of your affiliations. And it really helps establish your profile in the research community. After you've published, you can claim your researcher ID, your Google Scholar profile, which I do recommend you claim, even if you don't want to use their metrics. It is important that you have control over that, that presence with your name on it. And if you publish books, an Amazon author profile is likely created for you, and you should claim it and add any affiliations you'd like to. The next step is to publish in quality sources. It's important to pick reputable journals in an appropriate field. You can check Insights, journal citation reports for journal rankings, or ask anyone in the library to help you figure out what is a quality journal in your field of research, particularly if you're sort of shifting fields at all. So to find out who in your research area is publishing in what journals and aim to publish in those yourself. It's also important to avoid predatory journals. We have a very helpful LibGuide created by our research team on predatory publishing and how to avoid it. And you can always email us for more information. The reference desk is very helpful. You then want to make your publications easy to find. A lot of articles are going to be behind paywall. You might be able to get them at work, you might not, but people in the outside world probably won't unless they're open access. So it's important to submit them to the NOAA IR. It's also required by PAR, but that's a separate thing. It is ultimately very beneficial to you in making your work discoverable. The NOAA Institutional Repository is search engine optimized, so it's Google indexed. Most things that are in the IR show up in the top 5 to 10 results, sometimes higher when you look for them. And it provides a permanent link to publications. This includes article manuscripts. So if you publish an article that's going to be hidden behind a paywall, we can put up your manuscript without copyright restrictions. It does link to the publisher's version, and it provides access to your researcher, like to your research, to other researchers, free of charge. It also connects your work to all your other work and similar NOAA publications. You also want to make sure you use a consistent form of your name and link your ORCID and researcher IDs to your publications. The next step is linking all your work. There's a lot of growing evidence that sharing your data can increase citations, and it's also a big step towards open science. NOAA has several data repositories, but we work closely with NCEI to make data linked in the institutional repository. So you can submit your data using the Send to NCEI tool, which is linked here. And they'll archive your data sets and make them available online. I believe you can also request a DOI, which means people can cite your data set as well as your paper. And then you can let the institutional repository team know, and we can link your publications to your data set, which is really valuable and can help increase the visibility of your papers. And you can do that either when you submit the publication or after the fact, if you have a publication that is in the IR, but you haven't submitted the data set or you just forgot to do it at the time. And finally, you want to maintain your profiles. So keep them updated with all your contact information. Keep the list accurate and up to date with all your publications. It's really easy to register or claim your profile and then just sort of forget about it. But they do not maintain themselves for the most part. You need to go in and claim your publications. You need to make sure they're the right publications. And also make sure that your contact information and affiliation remains up to date. I would advise using an email address that will be used long term. I know a lot of people signed up for IDs with university email addresses and then graduated or left that university, no longer have that email address and can no longer access their account. It is likely recoverable, but it is a pain. You also want to make sure that your profiles have consistent information. You may not want the same amount of information on all your profiles, so you may keep your Google Scholar profile quite bare bones and have your full CV and your ORCID profile, but you want to make sure that they do match and are consistent. And just a few more tips of things that you can do to help increase citations to your papers. You want to carefully choose the keywords that you use in your paper. Look for other articles similar to yours in the field. Find out what keywords are being used so that when researchers do searches in databases and indexes, they're more likely to find your article. And then you want to use those keywords in your title and your abstract, hopefully frequently in your abstract, because things are often ranked by relevance or the frequency of which terms appear. I personally love a pithy article title, but you also need to have keywords so that people can discover it. Presenting your work at conferences and other events is really valuable. Conference presentations aren't generally cited or indexed the same way, so they might not directly affect your citation count, but they do help increase the visibility of your work. People will look for your publications, and they're a good way to really make yourself more visible in academic and research communities. You can also actively promote your work using social media and personal contacts. I would recommend putting things on your LinkedIn. If you have a personal Facebook or Twitter or anything that you feel comfortable using, also promote your work there in case you have friends in the field. I imagine you do. And also check if your office has communications channels to promote work and take advantage of those. The library does promote things sometimes. I know OAR does. These are resources available to you to get your research out in the field. You also want to try to publish in open access journals. There is research that says that open access papers tend to get higher citation counts than non-open access papers. That's a very valuable tool, although it can be more expensive. And try publishing collaboratively. There's even more research that's shown that team-authored papers tend to get higher citation counts, and particularly team-authored papers that have international teams. So publishing internationally, people around the world, will help your citation count if that's something you're trying to increase. So these are all tips. If you have any other questions about any of this, we're going to have questions in a second, but you can also email us at any time, either myself, that's my email address, or the Bibliometrics team as a whole, and we'd be happy to help you. We are available to come talk to offices or teams if you would like. And, you know, this report is just one of our offerings. We also do lab reviews and office reports. So, are there any questions?
I have a question.
Oh.
How do you get the biographical information on the report?
The biographical information on the report?
Yep.
We have used information on lab bios, as well as information in ORCID IDs, researcher IDs, and the NOAA staff directory, to be honest. So whatever we can glean. If someone wanted to provide their own bio information, we would be more than happy to include that.
Thank you.
But if you don't care for that, we can skip it.
Great, so we do have an online question. Thanks for pointing out the value of linking published data sets to publications. Do the metrics in your report include citations of those data sets? Could you call those out in your own bubble outside of paper citations?
So the question was about data sets and their citations. The citations in the report do not include data sets. That is something that is not really available at this time. Most data sets still don't have DOIs. They aren't being properly cited. The conventions of citing data sets are sort of changing as we speak. So they're not always cited at all. They might be acknowledged in the acknowledgements. It might be mentioned somewhere in a paper. So unfortunately at this time we're not able to include those counts in this report or any report.
Thank you. Another question was, does data include photographs? Someone has a 30-year time series of photos.
Does data include photographs? You would have to talk to NCEI. I would think so. I think photographs are data sets, particularly if they provide useful information that you are using in your research. So I know that NOAA has various photo repositories. The library has the NOAA Photo Library, which I believe has now started taking submissions again, and is generally a very valuable research.
Not for data. Not for data photographs.
Not for data photographs. Never mind.
I think that's NCEI.
I take that back. But I believe that NCI does take data photographs. You can contact them. They have an excellent FAQ.
Great. Someone else wanted to know about how long does it take to receive a research impact profile after requesting it?
How long does it take to receive a report? We're aiming for a 2-week turnaround. We'd like it to be shorter, but right now, 2-week turnaround is our goal. And I see that there is a comment about Research ID has recently moved to Publons. Yes, it has. We're still trying to figure out the ins and outs of that particular feature. I do know that you can go in and claim your Research ID. We don't have published work, so we can't do that right now. But we will be working on some helpful tips to add to our Bibliometrics LibGuide in the future. This is very new, and we're still figuring that out.
Any other questions in the room?
Do you have a question?
On the researcher impact report, you say the number of times it's been cited. Does that include self-citations?
The number of times cited on the report does include self-citations, which is, I mean, they're good citations. It is a frequently given tip to increase your citation rate. We did not include that because it's sort of gaming the system in a different way. But yes, it does include self-citations. And we might have a note about that.
Any other questions?
If there are any other questions on the line?
Not at the moment.
Don't believe so. So if you have any questions later, please let us know. We are always available via email and usually available via phone.
Will this presentation be available?
And this presentation will be available online on our YouTube channel, and we will make the PowerPoint available on our Bibliometrics LibGuide.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.